for joining us today on Playing the Field. I'm Maria Serrao. Recently, I had the opportunity to get to know a new charity called Challenged Athletes Foundation. But they're not new out there. They've been around for over 30 years doing amazing work. And they're getting ready to kick off a big event here in Los Angeles. So let's find out more about that. Bob Babbitt, such a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming.
Maria, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Tell me about Challenge Athletes Foundation. I know you have a very special story about how you first became involved. Tell us the story.
Well, a gentleman by the name of Jim McLaren was a 300-pound offensive lineman at Yale. And in 1985, he was taking acting classes in New York City. He was on his motorcycle going to class, gets hit by a New York City bus. Thrown 90 feet in the air. They actually chalked his body on the pavement. He was dead on arrival at the hospital. He lived. Ended up losing his lower left leg and obviously internal injuries as well, but came back from that to reinvent himself as an endurance athlete and ran a 3:16 marathon with a walking leg. Not a high-tech prosthetic like you see today. No carbon fiber there. One step up from Captain Hook. So the guy runs a 3:16 marathon. At the time, I had a magazine called Competitor Magazine, and this guy comes to Kona, the Ironman World Championship, which I was very involved with, and he goes 10:42, which is top 20% of everybody in the race. And we're talking, he's stopping during the race to pour sweat and blood out of his prosthetic leg.
Oh my gosh.
At that point, he's traveling the world. Everybody knows who he is. He's the Babe Ruth of amputee athletes. And 8 years after his first accident, he's racing in Mission Viejo. A van goes through a closed intersection, hits the back of his bike, propels him headfirst into a pole. Our guy's an amputee, becomes a quadriplegic. And at that point, because Jimmy was somebody I'd covered and was a close friend, myself, my buddy Jeffrey Essikow, and our other buddy Rick Kozlowski got together. And the goal was, I had covered a lot of wheelchair athletes through Competitor Magazine. The one thing I heard was all of a sudden you have this accident and you're 30 years old, here come mom and dad back in your life. No sense of self, no sense of independence.
Right.
So our goal became, we're going to run a little triathlon at La Jolla Cove, we're going to raise $25,000. We're going to get Jimmy a van with hand controls to give him independence. That was it. Our goal was to raise 25, we raised 49, we thought, job done. 3 amputee women competed that day to support Jimmy. And they came up to us afterward and said, you know, it's great we did it for Jimmy, but did you know when you get injured, your health insurance covers a walking around leg or an everyday wheelchair? Nothing to do with sport is covered by insurance because they consider sport a luxury item. I think all of your viewers know, and yourself know, sport's not a luxury item. It's a huge part of who we are and what we do.
You're lucky if you get a wheelchair, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At that point, we got our 501c3 and decided if someone needed a piece of equipment, training, or travel to stay in a game of life through sport forever and a day, the CF would be there. It's been 32 years. We've raised $191 million. We've sent out over 52,000 grants to challenge athletes, all 50 states, 73 countries, and more importantly, 105 different sports. Equipment, training, travel, 105 different sports. Our 105th sport was wheelchair pickleball, which was a grant we gave out last year. So it's been a heck of a journey. Because we've been around 32 years, and you know, if somebody gets injured, they're entering a world they have no idea about. Adaptive sports is this, there was no reason for them to know about adaptive sports.
Sure.
So now they're at Craig Rehab, or they're going to see a prosthetist. Well, most of the prosthetists around the country, most of the medical folks around the country know about us, and they'll recommend that they apply for grant. The other thing we do these clinics with our prosthetic partner, OSER. We do these amazing running clinics around the country. So someone might drive 100, 200 miles to come to a running clinic, and then they find there's a community. There's a community of other people in their area that they might not have known about. That, to me, is a huge part of what we do, is bringing that community together. This last year, we sent out 4,025 grants totaling $6.6 million.
That's amazing.
It's great stuff.
And I know the community is so giving because they find out about you and they want to give more.
Right. Well, and they can see the results.
Yes.
You know, like when we were at the Paralympics in Paris, right? 225 members of Team USA, 127 had received CAF grants. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Had a mom come up, actually at the 2016 Paralympics, this woman, Deborah Jackson, came up and she goes, Bob, you realize that 2 years ago you gave my son Desmond a running leg, and tonight he's running the finals at 200 meters here in Rio. I mean, you're able to see the results of,
Yes.
where the money goes.
I know you also have something called Operation Rebound. Tell us
Yes.
about that.
Well, Operation Rebound is for the military.
Yes.
Because during the years of CAF, Iraq, Afghanistan, all of that came about. And a lot of the folks who basically in previous wars might have died on the battlefield
Right.
because of the vests and things like that, people were coming back alive but missing multiple limbs, paralyzed from the waist down, so more need than ever before.
Wow.
So what we created Operation Rebound. Nico Marco Longo runs that, military himself, dealt with PTSD, and he is the guy and loves the military, works with them every single day. And so a perfect example, the key is spiraling depression that comes with that type of injury.
Absolutely.
So Eric McIlvaney we're talking 2011, November 2011, he steps on an IED in Afghanistan, right? And he loses his leg below the knee, and he's in the hospital. And a commander from a different unit comes to him while he's in the hospital and says, and Eric had no idea this guy was an amputee. He says, "It took me 3 months to get my prosthetic. How long is it going to take you?" And he takes his leg off, right? And Eric's like, 2.5 months later, he's got his prosthetic. In the spring of 2012, he did a sprint triathlon. In the fall, he did a half Ironman. And the following October in 2013, he did the Ironman World Championships. And the kid is from Pittsburgh, right?
Okay.
He's from Pittsburgh, so his hero growing up was Heinz Ward.
Of course.
Right?
Absolutely.
Heinz was racing in 2013 in Kona. And so they had Chocolate Milk had a team called the Become One team that Heinz was the captain of. So here is Eric McIlvaney sitting in his laptop, and all of a sudden here's Heinz Ward's face on the screen saying, "How would you like to be on my team to become one and go do the Ironman?" And he did.
What a small world.
How amazing is that?
What I love is that it's just integrated into life. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
And I love that this charity really it embraces that.
Yes.
It's so important. I know that you're going to be new to LA.
Yes.
You've been all over the country doing this, all over the world, really.
Yep.
Tell me about getting started in LA and leading up to the Olympics.
Well, with the great thing about the Olympics is it's going to be here in 2028, and
Yeah.
obviously Paralympics as well.
Huge.
And the first sport of the Olympic Games will be the triathlon, which is really where we started. The triathlon was born in San Diego in 1974. First ever triathlon was held at Fiesta Island in San Diego in
Really? I did
1974.
not know that.
Yes. There's a plaque right at the beginning, entrance of Fiesta Island honoring August 25th, 1974, or September 25th, 1974. The first ever triathlon was held there.
Wow.
And the women's triathlon will lead off the Olympic Games in 2028 in LA. And triathlon was sort of a base now, obviously, 105 different sports.
Sure.
But triathlon is still a huge part of our heritage, huge part of our legacy. And then the Paralympics come right after that. And it's going to be huge. And especially in para-triathlon, I think we had 8 medals for the U.S. in Paris. So the U.S. will be dominating once again. And having the Olympics and Paralympics in our backyard in LA, we've been doing, we're part of Zuma Beach Triathlon. We're the official charity for that. We've been involved up here forever. We're based in San Diego, so we've been doing clinics and camps up in LA for forever and a day. A lot of times, people who are injured, you think my life is over. I can't believe my life is over. Well, sometimes one door closes, another one opens up.
It's amazing. I can't wait to see what else Challenged Athletes Foundation is going to do. And I know you're having a big gala that we're going to talk about coming up next with Christine. Thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
Telling the story. And great things for 2026 and beyond in LA. Christine, it is so good to have you here to talk about Challenge Athletes Foundation. It's so amazing to look at the work that the charity does. I mean, there's so much, and to talk to the athletes, to talk to all of you, it's really a family. It feels like
Truly.
Yes,
Truly.
And now that you're going to be in Los Angeles, and we talked about leading up to Olympic Paralympic Games, there's going to be so much going on, but I know you have a gala coming up next month. Tell us about that.
We do.
Yes.
It's our first gala in LA. We will be at Skirball on February 7th. An exciting venue for us to be
Yes.
here. We have so many individuals that have been involved with our organization and perhaps attended events in San Diego, perhaps they've been part of our virtual community, and now this is a chance to be right here with them and bring the message of CAF to an incredible evening. We're doing storytelling and helping local athletes through what we raise. We're going to be able to help give grants in LA.
And you've already done that with so many athletes, and it's amazing to me because you don't just think about the fact that they need equipment, but they need coaches. They need so many things, just like any athlete would. And the fact that you're able to facilitate that is truly amazing.
Yeah, the power of the grants that we give, whether it's a piece of equipment or it's access to participate on a team or participate in an event, all of that, whether it's the equipment, it gets them out, it gets them part of a community, it gets them building friendships. All of that is so transformational. And so all the years that we have spent, breaking down barriers to sport, and then creating community through sports experiences. Those two are so complementary, and that's what we want to build to an even deeper impact here in LA.
And I love that. I love the fact that you want to break the barrier down between even disabled, non-disabled. You know, like this is just all part of a big sports community, which I think that it's moving in that direction.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many events that are driving to be more inclusive.
Yes.
We work with a lot of race directors. We're involved with Zumatry, and they have an inclusive piece of that event. And we like to step into those situations and say, think about the race, think about the course, think about the way that every athlete who wants to participate feels welcomed here, feels like you're ready to have them part of this event. And we love being supportive in that way. We have incredible partnerships with Ironman, and those inclusive sports environments, they raise everybody, right? And they just create just a broader sports community that is so supportive of each other.
Now we're going to put up on the screen, again, the gala is the
February 7th.
Okay.
Yep.
At the Skirball Center.
At the Skirball Center.
And is this black tie? What is the... Oh.
It's cocktail.
Cocktail,
and yeah, it'll be a wonderful gathering. It'll be kind of a strolling dinner where it's a chance for one thing we find about our community. They love to network. They love to meet each other. They love to engage in conversation. So we'll have this incredible dinner that we'll be having together in a social setting, and we'll go into the room, and then we'll have a great opportunity to hear some powerful athlete stories from local athletes.
We are now joined by Rob Belucas. Rob, you have an amazing story, but we're talking today, and I want to hear all about that, but we're talking about the charity. And I want to know how you first got involved with Challenged Athletes, and then your story.
Well, my story, Challenge Athletes Foundation is integral to the beginning of my story. I was training for a half Ironman. I lived in San Francisco at the time. I crashed in a rather infamous spot where bicycle crashes happened. It was the weekend before I was going to do my first half Ironman in Santa Cruz. And I was part of the Golden Gate Triathlon Club, and I had this huge training group that we would go on rides every weekend. And I just happened to be alone on this one downhill and crashed. And I ended up in the ICU, and one of my training partners serendipitously happened to work for a guy by the name of Alan Shankin, who was on the board of the Challenge Athlete Foundation. And
I swear the world is this big.
Yeah,
it's this big.
And I had amazing people. I had huge groups come and visit me in the ICU. This one injury didn't make me cry. It was the amount of support I got that made me tear up in the ICU. And but one of those trips, Suzanne came in and she said, when you're ready, trying to be very respectful. My boss wants to come talk to you about the Challenge Athlete Foundation, and she explained it to me. It's the first time I've heard that name, and I was very I'm very into it. I was very about it. So I just said, yeah, great. When would now be a good time? Let's go. because I was ready to get back out there. I think when you get into that level of putting in so much work to do a half Ironman, and then you don't get to go perform on the day,
Sure.
you're like, wait, no, like I can't put in all this work. And so I was raring to get back out there some way, somehow.
And so, but you've done so many things, triathlons, you've done marathons, Ironman. I mean, you went from, you were telling me, a kind of an average athlete to being like a superstar athlete with challenges. What do you think drove you to want to do so much?
Well, the biggest thing is that I think being injured, I was 38, and I had lived enough life to know, and I've had enough great mentors to know that you get to choose how you respond to the things that happen to you in your life.
Yeah.
And I created so much positive momentum in that year because I had at the beginning of that year, I was injured in September. In January, I had really just said, I'm gonna, really break through this year, get fit, do triathlon seriously, get some community and some mentorship and some coaching, and really focus in on my business and just laser focus on these things. It was literally walk my dog every morning in San Francisco where I lived, up Russian Hill, focus on my business and do triathlon. And I just had this great year and everything was clicking. And then in one moment it changed.
Right.
And I just was like, I got to keep going.
So you were always pretty much a driven person, it sounds like.
Yeah.
As you started to, find these different ways to work out, to do all these really amazing events, your workout routine changed. Who helped you with that? How did that begin?
Yeah, the Challenge Athlete Foundation, when I got hurt and it was funny, I had a physical therapist who we were sitting there with my spine surgeon, and we said, like how soon can you get out there? And ironically, as Bob Babbitt always likes to say, like movement is medicine, athletics is key. And he said, as soon as he can tolerate it, go.
Yeah.
He goes, I wouldn't worry about I have hardware spines or screws and rods in my spine. And he said, we could pick you up by it. Like, I'm not worried about, that being fragile. The more you can challenge yourself and, your body and you can tolerate it, like, go. Because strengthening your body immediately as soon as possible is actually key.
You had so much success once you started really becoming an athlete. I mean, how did you do all of this?
Well, part of it is my joke is like, I am unapologetically, an average athlete, and I am still an average athlete. I just get to do elite things because I drive to get myself out there, and I have communities like Challenge Athlete Foundation that support people like me to get out there. And part of it is there's just not enough of us out there.
Yeah.
And so I get to do elite things because, frankly, there isn't a ton of competition. I have a lot of Paralympic friends who could eat my lunch any given race, any given Sunday.
It's amazing.
And they're either focused on something else, or I've seen, like when I was coming in, there were guys on their way out who could still, eat my lunch and beat me any given Sunday. However, they're just where they were at in life. They were moving on to focus on other things, or had to get on with adulting.
I love it when people say, "Oh, have you ever done a marathon?" And I'm like, 26 miles? I can drive 26 miles, but those people, everybody trains. You've trained.
Mm-hmm.
You've done the Boston Marathon. Mm-hmm. You've done Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. What is the training process like for that?
Well, Boston I haven't done. I just qualified this year. This is my big goal for this year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, LA, like this will be my 5th year doing the LA Marathon, or 6th year, but 5th in a row.
How?
Well, this is what's insane to hear from people who know me, I think, for a long time. This is funny for me to even hear from myself because I was never known as an athlete. However, literally up until this year, marathon was a vehicle to, for Ironman. So when you're trying to, an Ironman has taken me like 10 to 12 hours. So, a 2.5 hour marathon for me in the racing wheelchair is kind of just a training day, which is hilarious perspective, for me to even hear me say.
Yeah.
But it does, like this year it's all I'm focused on, and I've kind of taken a somewhat of a year off, and so like right now I'm about 100 days out.
Okay.
I'm really getting back into it, and it's like that momentum, starting the momentum wheel again. It's difficult, it's rough.
So what does your average day look like?
Yeah,
Like how many miles will you do?
Yeah, so like Saturday and Sunday, like this past weekend, 2.5 hours both mornings. Get up. I'm again like through grants and whatnot. I have stationary trainers in the garage because it's really windy and the big rains that are here in LA. So I'm in the garage on a trainer watching binging something, and just put my mind in getting the body feel back in, and then. It used to be when I was Ironman training, it was like immediately after that, jump to the pool, go do an hour swim.
Yeah.
Basically, mostly 2/3 of my day on Saturday and
Just
Sunday.
working out.
And then like on weekdays, I jump out at lunch and get like an hour and 15 minutes interval training in my neighborhood around the block. I fortunately live on a block that's a little triangular 1 mile loop basically, and all
that's
my
good.
neighbors know me, and I put on lights and I wear yellow, and so I can get out, and then. And then maybe an off day of just stretching, which is really important that I haven't
Huge.
done enough of.
Right. Nobody does.
Nobody
That's
does.
the thing.
Right.
And then what has challenged athletes, what have they done for you as far as equipment goes?
I mean,
Your
all of
needs.
it.
Tell me what they've gotten for you.
So most like the initial, like the I mean, there's a lot of special stories along the way, but like when I apply for grants, it's usually from my coach, and I have a real like elite coach who's actually in Germany. He did his PhD on hand cycling athletes, and he comes stateside about every 2 years, and I was introduced to him through my coach, who's a CAF coach and a legendary like Hall of Famer, Ironman Hall of Famer, Carlos Moleda, who ironically when I was in the hospital on my iPad, looking at I just Googled wheelchair triathlon, pictures of him. And then one day I met him actually the first time I went to the headquarters of Challenge Athlete Foundation, they're like, yeah, this is Carlos Moleda. And I'm like, you look familiar.
Yeah, you're like, I saw you on my iPad.
There's a grainy picture of this guy. Now he's a good friend, and we communicate all the time. And that, I mean, that's the, it's like,
even more than equipment, it's training.
Training, travel,
Okay.
I've gone to Nice, France for the Half Ironman World Championships. I've gone to Kona. I've gone to this like 2024. I was in New Zealand for the Half Ironman World Championships. This is my joke about being average, is that I could say I was 4th place. I was the fastest American, and I was second from last. To
it's
some
all good.
real elite athletes who beat me by like 20 or 30 minutes.
Wow.
But I get to do this thing, and Bob and the Challenge Athlete Foundation was along the way. I broke a wheel on my race chair. They bought me wheels.
Yeah.
Travel stipends when I get to do the elite races, and then the annual grant cycle. I usually get a grant for coaching with my coach Ralph, and that's
amazing.
And that's. I mean, but it is like the monetary part is huge.
Of course it is.
It's
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you need things.
Yeah, and you need things, and none of it's covered by insurance, as Bob likes to say.
It's so true.
But like it's community. It's it's like movement is medicine. Community is key. Like even more so is the community of it.
Yep.
I know this wasn't part of your question, but like
it's okay.
Part of what like when I first went, I got a scholarship in my first year to go do a paratriathlon camp down out of their headquarters in San Diego, and we had a swim out in the ocean. And it was my first time in this new form, this new body out of a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And they just kind of assigned everyone to with a volunteer, and I got this pleasant older gentleman. And we did our swim. We came back. He's like, yeah, good job, man. Rob here. I was good form. And I, thanks. And then we went back into the HQ, and we're all kind of doing, different things and kind of just hanging out. And I just noticed everyone has a certain reverence for this guy that was swimming with me, Bob, And we go home that night, get on my iPad again, Googling Bob Babbitt. Oh, he's a co-founder. Oh, he's a big deal. Cool. And what was amazing about that was just the fact that, like, there was no, this is Bob Babbitt, he's the,
Yeah, he's the big guy.
He's a big deal. I mean, people had that reverence for him.
Yeah.
But like, Bob didn't, had to tell me who he was, and no one else said who he was, but he was out there with me swimming, with all of us.
Right.
And just, one of the volunteers, and I was like, I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
And everyone in that building has been like, that special, and just there's a community element that I can't even be,
It's amazing.
Can't say more, enough about.
That's so good. Now they're in LA. You're an LA guy now.
I'm
I
an
know
LA
that
guy now.
you and your wife have your own business. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, my wife works at UCLA. She's a big deal there.
Okay.
Before I was hurt, I call it my boutique creative agency, Baba Lucas Creative. Some kids I used to mentor
Nice.
took my last name, Balucas, and they call me Baba Lucas. And so I made it my company name, and I've just done website design ever since.
Nice.
And branding and marketing things. And I continued in the ICU with my laptop in my lap, and in rehab I had my laptop in my lap. And unfortunately, I've been able to continue that business and still work from home, and that's what I do.
And
day in and
representing the
day
charity
out.
too, which is huge. And now that they're going to be in LA just in time for Paralympics, it'll be a big deal for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really stoked to have them in the
your corner.
hometown and around the Paralympics. It's going to be
All of it.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
really
cool.
exciting.
Well, it's been so great to meet you. Thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you.
Sharing your story and
Yeah.
just talking about your relationship with challenged athletes and more great things to come.
Such great work that they do. Thank you to everybody who came out for the interview. And you'll be hearing much more about Challenged Athletes Foundation on future episodes of Playing the Field. That'll do it for today's show. Remember, you can watch Playing the Field 24/7 at playingthefieldtv.com. I'm Maria Serrao, and I will see you next time.